Wilderness survival. How you doing? My name is Rick Hawk Hurst. My friends call me Hawk. I've been called Hawk now for over 20 years. Kind of ties in with my in-tuneness and my relationship with nature. I've been involved in nature for most of my life, starting out when I was very young, and I was in the creeks chasing frogs and snakes and tadpoles and coming home sloppy wet and dragging some animal, and my mom was always at the door ready to kill me, or pointing and saying, "No, you're not bringing that thing in the house." Well, I'm sure there's a lot of kids out there that were that way, but that was the way I was brought up. New Mexico born, raised in Texas, and had a pretty good childhood most of my life. Got out of high school, went to college a couple of years, but all my life, from the time I was probably 3 years old until I got out of high school, all I cared about was being in the woods. Being in the woods was a huge thing to me. Trapping, hunting, fishing, stalking, tracking, just anything that had to do with nature I was involved in when I was young. So by the time I was in getting out of high school, I already knew my direction in life. I wanted to go to college, wanted to mess around with a little bit of the knowledge stuff there and get a little of that under my belt, but I always knew one way or another I was going to end up living most of my life in a nature scenario. After college, I headed to Utah, spent some time there in the mountains, went to Alaska for 7 years, learned a lot while I was there. Trapping, hunting, fishing, always out in the wilderness, getting flown in to hunting scenarios and camping scenarios. I've been lost in major situations in Alaska, the kind you do not want to repeat if you can help it. Very, very hard scenarios, very uncomfortable, but survived them. I moved to Montana from Alaska, and I raised my two daughters there. They were both born in Alaska, but raised in Montana. In Montana, I ended up owning a piece of property that was right next to the wilderness. So I was constantly in the woods, in the mountains. I got very interested in learning to perfect the skills that I'd heard about and I'd toyed with all of my youthful years. And so I eventually started honing my skills and becoming very, very proficient and good at making fires with flint and steel, finding water, how to preserve water in a survival situation, finding food in the wilderness in a survival situation, such as building deadfalls and snares, or building primitive weaponry so that you can be able to take animals. If you can't eat and you don't have water, you're not going to survive. If it's fairly cold or gets cold at night and you can't stay warm, hypothermia. So you're going to end up having problems there. There are so many scenarios that if you are not confident and you don't understand how to survive in a situation like that, your chances of survival go way down. I joined a club called the American Mountain Men, AMM, and it was started by a couple of guys that were ex-Vietnam vets back in the 60s. And they wanted to start teaching survival skills and get other people interested in it, and they did research to find out who they thought was the most proficient at surviving in the wilderness of any other people. And they came up with the mountaineers, the fur trappers and explorers of the early 1800s, and the Plains Indian. So that's what the AMM is basically based on. And I've learned a lot from them. I've made a lot of good friends. It's been a good organization. I'm still a member of it. And but one of the biggest things that I enjoyed there, which might not have anything to do with this program, but it might make you think about maybe having something in the future to do with it, is horse trekking. I learned a lot about horse trekking and started doing it about 1989, and I just have done it every year since 1989 without missing a year. My most recent trek was a few months ago, and I went from the Texas-Mexico border all the way through 7 states, all the way to the Montana-Canadian border. I touched both borders with my hands. And I documented the trip, and I met a lot of good people. Went through the Grand Canyon on horseback. I carried all my gear on horseback, the same way the mountaineers would have done 200 years ago. There's been a lot of horse trekkers out there, but nobody has done it primitive like that that I know of in a long time. It's still survival. It puts an extra edge on survival because not only do you have to care for yourself, but you have to care for your stock. And I love horse trekking, but I also love foot trekking. I'm not sure what you guys are wanting or what the program's going to be about. I'm sure it could be something totally different than what I'm thinking, but I almost think that anything you come up with, I would definitely be an asset to the project. I've got a lot of background with film. I've been in docudramas. I've been in short university films. I've been extras in movies. One that Bill Pullman gave awards to us on, and the actor Bill Pullman. It's been a lot of fun for me, but it's been more than that. It's my life. I love anything to do with survival in the wilderness. It is what I am drenched in. It is what's in my heart. I almost can't survive without it. I mean, I have to have nature, and I have to have those scenarios of survival in my life. Anything that you could throw out there, I'm sure I would be most into doing. I definitely would have good ideas of my own, how to go about doing it. This whole thing has to do with film. If you can't get it on film, you can't present it to the public the way that you want to do it. So I think I would be a good asset in figuring out how to do all that. If you could tell me to keep my mouth shut on certain things, I listen. Believe me, that's one thing I do. I listen. If you tell me something, I'm not going to hound you about it. I will do what you tell me. So, I know survival. I will survive in any scenario or situation. Anything you can dream up, shoot it by me. I'm all for it. I think it would be fun. I've always thought about being on some of the survival shows that I've seen on Discovery Channel and some of the other channels that they have out there too. So, but this is my life. I've done it so much. I have a school I'm trying to start right now too, an outdoor survival school. I'm wanting to gear it more towards kids, but I'm also going to teach adults. And the whole thing that I'm trying to teach more than anything is confidence. if you have confidence in a survival situation or in nature and the wilderness, you're going to be comfortable. You're going to be able to deal with it. And that's what I'm wanting to teach in my school. And I would love to have this, I'd love to do this project too. And I hope to hear from you. Anyway, if you this sparks any kind of interest in you, give me a call back and I'll be on a plane or whatever it takes to come do the next part of it. So give me a holler. Appreciate it. Adios. Woo!